So, change is inevitable. We all go through it. I was messing around one day and I realized something that needed to change for me. Did a little investigation and did some investment. I made that change. So, let's talk about it. What is going on? It is your friend TheBionicScoop here. And, well, the change I needed was gear. I know everyone talks about gear acquisition syndrome, gas, or whatever you want to call it. This was something a bit more fine-tuning my creative style. So, I see color a certain way, and I'm not like colorblind, but everyone has their own, I call them personal color profiles. When I was shooting a lot of photos with my A7 III and my A6400, I found myself editing the colors more towards one of my all-time favorite films, Provia, which is a very popular film from Fuji. So I got tired of doing it. So I decided to go out and make a change. So, in the most ADHD impulsive way possible, I sold all my gear. Thanks also, shout out to mpb.com. I traded in with there. Traded in the A7 III, the Sigma 24-70, a few other E-mount lenses I had, and I picked up this Fujifilm X-T4 in the 16-55 f2.8. Took about a week and a half to get here, and when I got here, I immediately set it up and took it straight out, and I was blown away by what I saw. So immediately I took it out. It was a kind of blustery, rainy night here, so wasn't too worried about it. Weather resistance from the lens and the body itself, I was okay. So this is one of the first shots I took with it, and the second I looked at it in camera, even in RAW, I was like, oh, that's really good. Speaking of that, that is one of the number one reasons I switched from Sony to Fuji. In-camera things. I can literally be in camera, looking at the RAW file, set the film simulation, adjust the exposure, and create the JPEG from there, and it looks almost exactly the way I would want it to after I put it through Lightroom. So then all I have to do is, if I want to run it through Lightroom and I'm doing something where I want to share it and, brand it, I can throw my watermark on it. I'm good. It reduced the time I spent editing photos exponentially. I don't have to sit on Lightroom for hours and hours. I can get the shot, know it's what I'm looking for, go into the camera, and create the JPEG I want, and not even have to import it into Lightroom. That's huge. So once I realized this is what I want, this is beautiful, this is exactly what I'm looking for, I had to invest in more glass. Along came this bad boy right here. This is the 50-140. This is your 70-200 equivalent. And let me tell you, this might be one of the sharpest long lenses I've ever used. Let's go to the tape. So I got this bad boy for two reasons. Number one, super telephoto ability. Be able to compress backgrounds and get some good crazy depth and compression. Number two, range for shooting sports. Because, I'm a huge pro wrestling fan. I shoot pro wrestling here in Vegas. So let's take a look at both of those things here. Number one, here's one of the first nights out. I wanted to shoot bands. I wanted to isolate subjects and get really cool shots of just certain performers doing what they do. And this lens does not disappoint. 2.8 f4 equivalent on a full frame. The depth of field and the dynamic range corrections that are built into with Fuji software, you can get some absolutely amazing shots at 2.8 on an APS-C sensor. So let's move on to the more difficult situation with this 50-140 shooting professional wrestling, especially in a dark arena where I was out in the stands shooting in towards the light. So there's points in the ring where the ring lights don't hit anymore and you lose faces because their faces in the shadow as they lean over the ropes. Or you get super bad highlights in the top of their heads if they're bald, and the bottom of their face is a little rough. But the Fuji X-T4 handled it so well. Let's take a look at some of the pictures I snapped. So with that high contrast, high ISO has to be used because it's got to compensate for being so dark, and Fuji handles it so well. The noise is in a minimal. The camera does correct a lot of that, and Lightroom will fix a little bit, but it still handles it really, really well. So, there you have it. I have switched my shooting from exclusively Sony to exclusively Fuji. This is most likely the last thing I'm going to shoot on Sony. I've got my ZV-1. I'm going to keep it around, use it for some quick stuff when I'm traveling, going in the back pocket. But it will be replaced by an X-T30, which will be here shortly. I'm also adding one more piece of glass, the 56f1.2 for some of my portrait stuff. I also snagged a little piece of glass. This bad boy right here. Boom! 23mm f2. That's going to go on the X-T30 and be the same angle and look we're looking at right now from the ZV-1, only at f2. Well, that's it. Follow me on all my socials at TheBionicScoop on Instagram and Twitter. The TheBionicScoop Facebook page is up and running with a lot of the same shots you saw here and a few more you've never seen before. So go check that out too. That's all I got. TheBionicScoop out. Take care.